We have a special guest, and that's where we were getting things straightened out, because we have a lot to talk about on the Ross Report today. A lot to talk about. In the studio with me is Miss Africa Arceneaux. You'll know her name because you have heard us talk about what a courageous person she is. She stood up to the bureaucracy at Smile, and this morning she was in court. Well, yesterday she was in court, and this morning she got the word. So welcome, Africa. Welcome to the Ross Report. Really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. I'm glad to be here.
All right. Well, you did win in court, and so tell us about that. How, and we'll give people an update.
Okay, Judge.
As to how all this started, but mostly because you were a whistleblower, and you talked about and told them that they had to report these cases of alleged abuse, which they did not do, which means they lost their federal funding for at least 5 years.
Right. Back in October, I received an email along with the rest of the board members that there were allegations of child abuse. I questioned the board, the CEO at the time, the interim CEO at the time, had it been reported to DCFS. No one responded. And I replied that we are mandated reporters of the state of Louisiana.
So you had to report this to
Definitely.
the federal government, and it wasn't done.
Right. First at the local level, and they were to also contact the federal government as well.
All right. What about in the state area? Do you ever report those things to the state? Is there any oversight by the state in terms of Head Start?
Definitely. As a former employee of the Department of Children and Family Service, I worked there for 5 years. You are obligated, mandated by law to report child abuse, neglect, any allegations of abuse.
Okay. They didn't do it?
No, they did not.
Okay. So when the Head Start auditors were brought in from HUD, those would have been HUD auditors, correct? That were brought in to audit the Head Start program?
I'm not sure if it was HUD. It is another department within the federal government.
Okay. And they came in and audited and found these abuses.
That is correct.
So they put them on notice that they had to report those abuses. And while they were on notice to report the abuses, there were more abuses that occurred that they didn't report.
I just recently found that out because I was removed improperly back in January of this year.
Okay.
So those new allegations I was unaware of.
All right. So when you were removed in January?
Yes.
And it's taking you all this time to fight to get your seat back.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, bring us up to date on the court suit that you brought against Smile for illegal removal. Why and how was that done to remove you?
Per my last show, I had advised to the community that back in October, there was a position open for a CEO. There were several applicants that applied for the job. However, they allowed Dr. Christopher Williams into that seat. So that was improper. That was illegal.
They had 2 illegal votes, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Until they finally came back and did the third one and did it legally. But you and several others objected to it and were removed from the board.
Right. There was a majority vote to start the hiring process over again, but the secretary of Smile Board took it upon herself, along with other executive members, to allow Dr. Christopher Williams into that position. And as I've stated, it was nothing personal against him, but there are rules and regulation, policy that we must adhere to.
Mm-hmm. And you violated the bylaws, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
All right. So Dr. Williams takes his seat, but in the meantime, you're removed from your board position illegally because the bylaws state that the board must vote to remove you, correct?
That is correct.
But they did not vote to remove you.
No, it was never done.
So it was an arbitrary move by whom? Who did that?
It was several members of the board, mostly the executive committee at the time. And I don't want to name any names right now. Because I know there's a lot of people that are upset that I'm back in my seat.
Well, they can read the published reports. Those
Right.
names are out there in the published reports that Claire Taylor has done. She did an outstanding job. this agency has been troubled for quite a while.
Right.
And those of you who were questioners and whistleblowers on some of these things, they systematically got rid of anyone who was a whistleblower or questioned their procedures, correct?
That is correct. Anytime that I, along with others, like John Billiard or Mr. Kendall Wiltz, who was also improperly removed by State Representative Pierre, he wrote a letter removing Mr. Wiltz improperly, and that might be also another suit pending. But I just want to go on the record and state that the loss of funding is totally separate and apart from my removal.
Correct.
And there are things that there are some people on the board that do not follow the rules, and specifically the bylaws.
So they violated the bylaws in terms of removing you and Mr. Wiltz. Wasn't there another? Was it a Mr. Allen or a Mr. Brown who also resigned? Was very frustrated with the whole situation.
Attorney Marcus Allen was Allen was very frustrated because there was no unity. And I don't blame him for it because it's very stressful because we don't get paid to sit on this board.
No. And you had to go through being on the advisory council first and then be named to the board. And you were the appointee of the NAACP, correct?
That is correct. I reached out to the NAACP president because I was a member at the time. I was told that I needed a letter by the secretary of the SMILE board. However, I am a private sector, and a letter was never needed. Only the public sector requires a letter. But I was told to get a letter from an organization, and I received the letter from
Ms. Dixon?
From Marja Broussard. She's the president
Marja Broussard of the NAACP. Okay.
Right.
Now, but when you were removed without cause and without following proper procedures, did they put Ms. Dixon in your place, or who went in your place?
Yes, when I didn't vote to
approve Mr. Williams,
Dr. Williams, in his position as CEO, the president of the NAACP was very angry, upset at me, and she contacted the SMILE agency and advised that she wanted me removed immediately. And she was successful in doing that at that time.
But that was illegal.
But it was improper and it was illegal.
Which led to your filing suit.
That is correct.
All right. So you had the hearing yesterday in court here in Lafayette. And what did their attorneys argue, and what did your attorney argue?
Well, I have to give a shout out to my attorney, David Rutledge. He is an excellent attorney. He defended me well. Judge Michelle Breaux rendered a judgment according to the bylaws, and she found in favor that I am entitled to my seat and to serve the 5-year term.
That's correct. That's what you were appointed to. And unless the board votes, which I doubt that they will want to do at this point in time,
right,
to remove you, I seriously doubt that they'll want to do that because the judge has already ruled that you are entitled to that seat.
Right, and I believe Judge Michelle Breaux was fair and just. She looked at the facts and used the governing bylaws, which governs the SMILE agency, to make her decision. And I just want to state also, we as board members have a fiduciary obligation and duty of care to the citizens. And I just want to also state that during my tenure on the SMILE board, I will continue to be a law-abiding citizen and follow the bylaws to the letter of the law. I did not do anything wrong to have them remove me. And I honestly believe justice has prevailed.
Now, where do we go from here? Because they've lost a big chunk of their funding.
85%.
Yeah, $17 million for Head Start. I don't understand how the board will be able to continue to function with the loss of that much money and at least not have the staff that they, well, first of all, they won't need the staff that they have now. If they're not running the Head Start program, they certainly don't need the staff that they have now, correct?
Well, the Head Start program will continue.
But under a different management.
I believe it's called CDI. Like I stated, this is new to me. I'm just finding this out as well as since the community as well.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember what the name of that agency was, but we had the story on the other day. And it's a federal agency, and it was turned over to them to run. Can't can't remember the name of it, but it's a community for children, Child and Family Services sort of agency that they have turned Head Start over to. But really, without that funding and not running that program, with only the other minor, there's not that much money otherwise. How do you maintain that board and those salaries? Because Dr. Williams is being paid what, upwards over $80,000, I believe.
I believe his salary is approximately $80,000
plus benefits and that sort of thing. So, how do you sustain that?
Well, I plan to attend the next meeting. Hopefully, I'll get my judgment. Hopefully by tomorrow. I'm going to pursue it. Let them be aware, which I'm pretty sure they are aware now, that the judge has rendered her decision, and I'll be seated back into the board. And we all need to get together and find out exactly what we need to do as a group. There must be unity in order for this program to continue for the people, because the people definitely needs the program.
What's the point of keeping the three parishes together, though? Why couldn't each parish do what they need to do for their own parish? Wouldn't that make more sense? Because every parish is different.
Well, this is a tripartite program. St. Martin, New Iberia, and Lafayette, we work together, and we are funded federally, and we all receive the funding.
Right, but what I'm trying to get at is it seems like an artificial construct to have those three parishes together when they all have very different needs. It would seem that it would be better to have them all running their own programs individually, wouldn't you think?
Well, it's possible, but I believe if we can come to some type of agreement and work together, this should have been done a long time ago.
Well, I know. There have been problems brewing for a long time.
Definitely, way before my time.
No, exactly. All those stories that we've seen in the paper. Claire Taylor's done an outstanding job reporting. I know she's getting a lot of flack, and I'm sure you are too, because they're going to try to blame you for the loss of the funding when, in fact, you were one of the people who kept telling them to report the abuses, because they don't mess around with this. Not with child abuse. You know, they do not mess with that.
And like I've stated, there are several board members that have been on this board for several years now, and they're stuck in their own ways of doing things. And that's not how this system should work.
No.
This
is to be run for the benefit of the people.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I see that, I can see that they want to turn it around and make you look like you're the bad guy, make Claire look like she's bad, and make me look like I'm bad for raising the questions that should have been answered over the years that haven't been.
Right.
And to me, that's a real problem, because what does it do? It undermines the trust of the people, in these kinds of agencies that are there ostensibly to do good work. But then they see, over the past year of them, all the travel expenses. I mean, I know you didn't come in on that, but my goodness.
Right.
$30,000.
Right. That is an abuse of funding, and that funding should have been used elsewhere, specifically for the people within the community that desperately needs it.
All right. Now, that you said this is a tri-parish construct by the federal government, but without the Head Start component and all that money, what is left to manage?
Well, we still have several other programs. We have the LAHEAP program, which funds people who need assistance with their light bill. We also assist people to get their GED. Also homeless. We have a homeless shelter as well. So there are different other programs that we have.
But aren't there other agencies who could fulfill those programs? That's my point. I mean, I don't see how this board will be able to continue without that major chunk of funding, and aren't there other ways to solve these problems?
And that is something we will all have to definitely look into. And being that I have been apart from the board for several months now, I've been away from this board since
you were
January.
You were pretty much banned from, from the board.
I did not have access to the packet in which we receive on a monthly basis to look at the monetary funding that they've been using. So I need to look at that.
Well, some of the people were asked about the fact that this this funding was going to be taken away, and some of them act as though they didn't know anything about it. But apparently, an emergency meeting had been called by Dr. Williams to discuss apparently this very same thing. But no one can get any comment It seems as though Claire Taylor has tried several times, and I think Channel 10 may have tried. I don't know. I haven't seen any public comment out there, per se, from the leadership of the board. Have you?
I haven't heard anything yet.
So even as a board member coming back, or as a former board member, you've not been kept up with?
No, they have not
on.
sent any emails to me. They've kept me from receiving the monthly packets.
Mm-hmm. The legislative auditor, I understand, is still looking into the management of it, the fiscal part of it. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I have not received any follow updates. And I know there is an upcoming court hearing with the
district attorney. That was a result partly of what you did because of the improper removal and the violation of the Open Meetings Law and then the Public Records Act.
Right.
But that hearing is not due until August, correct?
Yes.
All right. Now, what do you expect to see at that hearing? Will there be any resolution or anything that the district attorney can do?
I pray that there is a resolution. I believe there may be a judgment against Smile again because of their wrongdoings.
Just for the for the violation of the Open Meetings Law,
correct,
and the public records. Okay, well, if it hadn't been for you and Claire Taylor, we probably would not have known. Kendall Wiltz, of course, he got thrown off the board.
Right.
Marcus Allen got frustrated and resigned.
Right, and I have to also mention Mr. John Billiot.
Oh, Mr. Billiot. Now, he won his suit also, did he not?
Yes, and he's a strong advocate for Smile. Mm-hmm. He is for the people within the community. He wants what's best, as well as I, along with Mr. Kendall Wiltz and others on the board.
Right now, you have they have a new president now, Mr. Thomas Guidry.
Yes.
And have you been in contact with him, or has he contacted you since?
Not as of yet. It's possible he may call me later on today.
Okay.
But he's a very fair man.
Yes, and I've been trying to get him. I want to get him on the air to talk about these things also, to see, in his opinion, where things will go from here, because I think it's really important that the community have the facts and not blame people who are just bringing the facts to light and a bad situation.
Right.
I mean, it's so unfortunate that that's what usually happened.
Right. And our main goal is to help move the process and the people forward.
Mm-hmm. Have you gotten support from some of the people who have seen how this has impacted the community?
Yes, definitely. A lot of people has been encouraging me. They keep telling me, Africa, just continue to have faith. You are an honorable person. We need you on this board, because there are members who, like I've stated, that's been on this board for several years now. Yeah.
Well, Africa, I can't tell you how much. First of all, we appreciate your courage for taking this to court, for helping to bring this to light. And please keep us posted. We want to stay in touch, and we want to get the information to the people, because we, as taxpayers, we may not be using the services of Smile, but we have a right to know, too, because it's our tax money going to fund these organizations.
Most definitely.
All right. Thank you, Arceneaux. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Take care. All right. We'll be back on the Ross Report right after this. Stay with us.